we like to create an account once a judgment has gone through. There's a few reasons for that. One reason is oftentimes you package multiple accounts through a single judgment. And so that single judgment result is going to have a different balance. And so to track that single judgment on multiple accounts can be a bit headache inducing. So we create a brand new account once a judgment process has been completed and you actually get a judgment. The other reason is that judgment amount may be different than the balances of those original accounts. And so you want to track it in a better way that way. So that's the first caveat to how ACE does things maybe differently than FACS or other systems. So part of that process, and probably should have a cleaner account, but that's okay. Itemization mismatch restricted. We're okay with that. We have our cases here on the left to create a new case. And so that's the first part of the process, is we're going to create a case. Once we create a case, and I'm just going to hit apply here. I don't even necessarily need to put in anything. One of the things you'll notice
David,
is...
David, are you able to make your screen larger?
A bit bigger? Yeah, a bit bigger. And you should be able to zoom in on the GoToMeeting if you need to.
Yeah, we can. We're getting segmented though on the.
I just want to unpin that. Oh, I don't want to do that. How do I get rid of your doohickey things up on top?
Yeah. So each one of these buttons here or pills can do actions, and you get control what those actions are. So by clicking on this, it will cause what we call a trigger to fire. And then that trigger can then have whatever actions you kind of want to occur onto the account to fire, letters to go out or other things. By default, each of these are associated with a date. So we down here we have like our client authorization request date. So by clicking on this, it populates that date for the date that they clicked it. Request summons will populate the summons request date, and so on and so forth, serve request date and all that. These are the date fields that we're aware of work within the judgment process. Maybe some of them you won't use, like mediation date. I don't think I've had a customer use mediation date before, but it's there just in case you actually do have that. We had one customer have a not to be found. That's basically they submitted the case, but then the case fell through and they have to resubmit it or something along those lines. That's kind of an extra thing for them. So, what you use and what you don't use, it's really up to you. And then, which letters go out is usually related to these actions. And then so we can have letters automatically be triggered and fired and sent when you select these links here. As you can see, you can also input your courts. You can have a list of courts. You can input court information. You can have process server information and attorney information. And all of those can be customized and you put in your own list of those values.
Right there.
Any questions so far? No? Okay. So this is our case. All of your case information, your whole legal process, you kind of go through each step in the process. They typically correspond to these links here. And then during that process, you'll want to put in amounts. And these amounts will correspond to, court costs. You'll add court costs. And so by putting in here, it keeps track of it within the case, but it doesn't actually apply to the account. If you want to have it apply to account, we can post an adjustment. And so on the left, you can hit post adjustment, and then you would post, let's say, hey, this is a $50 to our court cost. And we have our owing, $50 court cost, and this is the date. You can say it's an adjustment. You can say, any type of, one of these types you can do. So I'm just going to apply that. And you can have your own batch for adjustments. So I'm just going to select that there. So I'm going to apply that. And then the balance of the account goes up by the $50. They now owe $50 of court costs in addition to the $50 that was apparently already on there. Oh, no, there wasn't. Never mind. So that's kind of the general idea, is you add to the owing buckets here, wherever you want, court costs, attorney fee, legal. We have all these missed buckets that you can relabel for various other fees, process server fees, that type of thing. You can set all that up. And so that's our base, what ACE does inherently. As far as enhanced functionality, There's a few things that I've done with customers to automate the process beyond what ACE does by default. One of the things that I've done is if you go to our legal section and you go to our courts or our process server, so I'm going to pull up this process server here, there's these fee buckets. And so a process server may have, you know, various fees, and they're static. They're the same every single time. You don't want to have to post an adjustment of that amount every single time. It's a manual process you should be able to automate because it's the same value every single time. So we could create some back-end logic to where when you do a certain action like requesting, you know, the file the suit, for example, by filing the suit, you know it's going through the processor is going to charge you money. You want to add that money to the account, you can have that automated. We could set it up to the trigger will fire the action that adds the fee to the account based off of the processor fee here. So we could do things like that. Same with courts. In fact, all of your court information, processor server information can appear on letters, your legal letters, based off of the value in here when you select it in that dropdown. So you're not having to populate all those fields. It's just automatically there. And so we have some additional fee here for courts. So that's kind of some of what can be done within the case itself. Any questions on just, you know, anything pre-judgment is what I call it.
Nope, no questions.
Okay. So pre-judgment is fairly simple when I think of things. It's a little bit simpler. Post-judgment, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. So obviously you can dismiss the case, it doesn't go through judgment, but we can render a judgment. So here is I'm going to render my judgment. I'm going to select my judgment client. This is just a special, unique client that I've designated as my judgment client. You typically only have one. A reason why you might have more than one is if you have some separation as far as company internally or other aspects of that. It's not very common in that scenario. So I'll select my one judgment client here, and then I'm going to say, hey, this is when the judgment date is. The result was agreed judgment. There's an interest rate. I'm going to say 5% starting, let's say it starts Friday. I start collecting that. And here's my total judgment amount, which is grabbed from the account here. And when I posted my $50 judgment, that's automatically showing up here. So all of that's good. And then I can hit next. And then this next period, this controls how everything spreads. You know, what's appearing on the account. So my fee, my interest, everything is going to be showing up in the principal bucket of the judgment account. So the judgment account principal includes the fee and interest and principal from the original. And then court cost is court cost. So that's how everything is spreading. So if you want to separate it out again on the judgment account, you can do that. You can, you know, change it to like this is the attorney fee or something along those lines. And so I hit spread here. Let's change this back to principal. I hit spread, said OK. And that's creating a judgment account. You can have more than one account tied to the case. And by having more than one account, you can have more than one defendant tied to the case. And they would all group together and create the one judgment account. And it would be one account per case. So the judgment account gets created. You can see it here, and I'm still on the case screen. One of the things that you might notice is on the original account, I have it automatically set to change the status because it's gone into judgment. So that's a process I've built, and you can have it do other things like that. It shows a nice active judgment. It has this link here to go to the judgment account. By clicking this, it goes to the case, which I'm on. By clicking this, it goes to the judgment account. So I'm going to go to the judgment account. So once I'm on the judgment account, the balance, everything else is based off of the judgment, and you work this account. So from now on, once the judgment account is created, you don't work the old original accounts anymore. You only work the judgment account. That way you focus on the judgment, you pay off the judgment, everything's good here. So when you're posting payments on a judgment, let's do a cash payment. We're just going to put in $50. They're going to be paying off their court cost. And let me just hit spread here. Is there anything else I'm missing? Oh, I'm missing a spreader. How is it going to spread? Is it going to go principal first, court cost first? That's what I was missing. So, okay, so it's spreading that way, and now I can hit apply. As you can see, we don't let you apply if you haven't, done everything properly. So I'm going to hit apply here, and what that does is it makes a payment on the judgment account, so I can see my judgment account. The payment went down, and if I go back and click here to my original account, the original account also received a duplicate of the payment, including any client commission that may exist. So every payment made to the judgment account gets spread down to all the accounts tied to that judgment. So you don't have to worry about working the original accounts anymore. That's kind of how we do it in ACE. We have two separate accounts, and they work simultaneously, and they're linked together in that way. It gets a little bit more complicated when you have more than one account tied to a judgment, as you can imagine, because you have, like, say, $500 judgment, but then you have 5 $100 accounts. How does that $50 spread down? Does it do 10 to each account? Does it do 50 to 1? That is something you'll need to work out. And then we can create a spreader specifically for that purpose. So that's kind of something that is a variable that can definitely add some complication.
So when our collectors are entering that payment, do they actually pick where the spreader is putting it, or would that be automated?
Both. So you can choose a default spreader, and that's determined by the client. So the original client has a spreader that says, this is my judgment spreader. So when any account belonging to this client goes to a judgment, I want to use this spreader when I'm spreading the information down to my original account. And then it would appear here by default. Otherwise, they can select a different one if they need to, a manual process. You can also manually adjust things. So this here, you can put in specific dollar amounts into specific buckets and have it spread manually. And then you can see how it looks on your original judgment account once things are paid down. So you can adjust things manually, but we do have automated processes so that you don't have to do it every time.
And there's some permission-driven stuff there too, David, where the collectors don't necessarily have access to the spreader and it could go to a posting desk. Is that how I understand?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But I'm presuming, so for example, and I think our terminology is, Jason, help me, apply sequence. Right. So so every time we set up a new client within our current setup in Synvi, we set it up to where the first thing that will always be paid, regardless of where the account lies, is our court costs. Because we front the court costs, we collect those first.
Right.
Right. Then it moves to, right, so it would move to that, and in certain cases, so in Nebraska, we're able to apply a 10% attorney fee, but it actually goes court costs, principal, attorney fee, interest is kind of what our apply sequence is. And
Yep.
that would follow across every one of our clients.
Yeah. So this is how the spreader works. So you do, 100% to court costs. Only once court costs is paid in full do we then move on to principal, and so on and so forth.
As you were talking,
Okay.
you adjusted that to fit your business rules. It was that fast.
And you can also say, do partials. You could say, oh, actually, the attorney fee, only 50%, it gets 50-50 here, or 60-30, and then 10 or something like that. And it spreads that way. So it doesn't have to be 100% one bucket paid off in full. It can spread however kind of you want there. So,
Okay.
Yep, that's how that works. Okay, so judgment accounts created. You can post payments per normal. We have a garnishment feature. So on the judgment account, you can hit a garnishment here. You can hit new. I don't think I have any garnishees, so let's set one up. Garnishee, I'm going to create, let's just say, bank. This is a bank. All right, we'll create a bank garnishee. There you go. I'm very creative, by the way. Let's see. We have bank here. Just like that. You can have additional defendants on the garnishment. You have your garnishment amount, garnishment period. All of this information can appear on a letter. So your garnishee letters, you can just populate the values here, and then you print your garnishment letter. It's kind of what they're meant for.
So in the state of Iowa, we have to use their formatted documents for a lot of our legal documents. So garnishments, they have a special form that we have to follow. We basically had to copy it, and we're using. So I mean, I don't know if that's something that would just be added then, or.
It can get a little hairy at times, but we do our best. And I haven't run into a scenario that we haven't been able to figure out a solution for. And if it gets really complicated, you know, maybe we just do a system change to meet the need that you have. So the way letters work is we have a letter profile that we generate. And then let me see if I can I'll just grab this debt letter here. So we have a template in OpenOffice. LibreOffice is a free tool similar to Word. This is a different website. Let me try one of the other ones. No. Let me try one of the ones I have that I know is better here. We'll do our validation notice letter. Here we go. So this is our validation notice. And legal letters work the exact same way. As you can see, you can format it based off of a document. You know, it takes time to generate these letter templates for sure. So you have to consider that and factor that in. But once it's generated, these values here get populated from the system. And so when we're loading and inserting values, what we do is we download from ACE a table, and then we insert the table, and now we have our data source. So for example, here for my table, I have all these tables that I've imported from ACE, and I can go to my legal, and I have my legal case, and it will send me, it will, you know, hey, I want to populate the case number. So I'll drag the case number in, and I'll populate it here on the letter. And the case number will be populated right there when the letter prints. And, you know, I have the legal case, the case account, you know, a court, things like that. So the fields that exist in ACE, you can just drag and drop the values, and it populates on the letter where you need it to be.
And then you can just save it, so it'd be like that going forward?
Yep.
Or okay.
And if you have static formats, like a static format that you can't do a dynamic template like one of these where it will grow with new data, but you have to fit it to an image, like we can map image, like court filing documents are the most common scenario for that. It's a static document that you can't do dynamically. We've accommodated those as well. They require some work. So it's much preferred if we can do it through a LibreOffice template that you can build and then populate.
Yep. And we even, well, for legal, you wouldn't need email, but we could do it in an email format too. Yeah, so that's how letters work. So sending letters from a judgment is similar. You would send that, you know, do a garnishee, you make payments, you work the account, and that's kind of the process. Is there anything else you want to see of this process?
Well, I do have a question.
Sure.
So sometimes we don't get full judgment, and maybe we get a partial, or maybe we don't get interest, or maybe we don't get court costs on it. So if we could go back to that part where you're entering the judgment actually when you first get it.
Yeah. So let's create another case here. Judgment rendered. Okay, so you can change your judgment amount. I mean, it's $500. That's what it's supposed to be, but I'm going to say, oh, actually, it's only $400 because they decided to pay less. And I can choose, you know, actually maybe it was $350 for the principal, and then a $50 court cost here was added, and so in total we got $400. And I'm going to select this, select my agreed. I'm not going to worry about interest. I'm just going to hit next here and confirm that's correct. You know, it tells you, hey, there's a difference of $100 between the total balance of the accounts. Beware. But you can spread it anyways. And then that will create a new judgment account that is less than, you know, the balance is less than what's on the original account. and you pay off your judgment like normal, it spreads down to the original account per normal. Typically what you want to do on the original account is you'll post adjustments to adjust off whatever's missing. So I'm going to say we're going to post a negative $150 from our principal. And then I also need to post a $50 court cost. Typically that should have been done before the judgment was made, but just trying to balance things out here. So order of events was wrong, but you get the idea. So you'd want to post those adjustments first on the original account before you run and register your judgment.
Is it easy to navigate through, multiple judgments, multiple clients per judgment, all of those different scenarios that we may have?
Yeah, let me see if I can grab bundles here. There are more than one account. Not this one.
Only one.
Let's see, multiple defendants. Here's like an example of multiple defendants. So you have multiple defendants here. Let's see if I feel like I have another example of. Here we go. Okay, so we're in legal, and I've added multiple accounts to this judgment. Some of them have been paid off. Let's remove that guy. All right, that works. So I have these guys here, and I can add additional people as the defendant because it's from different accounts here. So we'll do that. Let's apply that change, and let's render my judgment. And as you can see, this is how it spreads for each account. Yes. Sorry if I was moving by that too quickly. I realized I probably should have slowed down there. I mean, it's the same steps throughout the process. So we have multiple judgment accounts. The reason there's multiple is it's one per borrower, so one per defendant. So I can go to this account here, and this is the one defendant that was Marquita, it looks like. And so I can go to that person's judgment account. And this person, as you can see, has multiple accounts that are the original, and you have a folder for each one of those accounts. So that's that one, and then this one I think is different name, so different individual. So each defendant would get its own judgment account. Is how we do it in ACE.
Did that go by too fast, or did it more illustrate how quickly you can navigate through that information?
Once you get good, you can navigate that fast.
Yeah, Leanne wasn't with us on the original presentation that kind of flowed through some of the account setup, so some of it's a little Greek, I think.
Sorry, I recorded this. I hit record on this, so I'll provide you with a recording, and Leanne can review that initial stuff.
Yeah.
We'll clean up the language.
Any questions, or do you want me to go through something a bit, step by step? I'm just showing you like what's capable of ACE. This isn't necessarily like a training
I
session.
think the other question would be when we're setting the judgment up, when it's only listing one creditor, for the drop down, we never sue just one client.
Right.
Seldom do we have just one client. So I don't know how that. I mean, that wouldn't be Howgie, right? That's actually the client that we have the judgment for, right? On that drop box.
Yeah, I'm curious about the terminology on that too.
Sorry, I'm just confused on
that. So
I mean, is that Howgie or is that client names there? Because we always have more than one client that we're suing on.
If you could kind of talk through, so for example, let's say we have, ABC
Boone County
Medical,
Hospital, yeah,
Boone
and
County
Quinn.
Hospital and Iowa Specialty. And we're suing Chris Washi on behalf of both of those clients. So we have
Right.
two clients in the bundle, each containing 5 accounts, so a total of 10.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. That is exactly why we create a new judgment account, is because there could be multiple clients tied to it. So that judgment account goes to a different client, a different judgment client. It doesn't go into the same client as before, specifically for that reason. But each legal case account is got its own client, and that's fine. And you can grab that value. So under the legal case account, you can grab the company name associated with that, or the client account number here associated with that. Or here we go, client. So this client would be for this specific legal case account, and you can have it loop through every account and have it have a different client as one option to display on letters. But how do you have your letters when you have multiple clients? Do you actually need the client information on there on the letter?
Yeah, that's been a bit of a process. So we within FinVi utilize user-defined windows, which, so using my example, let's say we have 2 clients with 5 accounts we're suing on behalf of. So what we have the system do, we're doing kind of a export-import to then document in those user-defined windows the necessary information but separated by client. Then we're generating the letter off those user-defined windows so that we have Boone County on this one, we have Iowa Specialty on this other. So they're getting their assignment, only listing their accounts to go ahead and assign over to us. That's what our process is. And then it gets a little more cloudy because with user-defined windows, we're limited to the number of accounts that can go in there. So if we get over 21 accounts, which can happen quite often, it's then there's a secondary process that goes through that Jason created that will utilize logic to pull all of those accounts for one particular client, even if there's 30 of them, and input that into an assignment.
Right. Yeah, I have to admit there is a way to do that with bundle groups within ACE, but those are technically not legal letters. They're bundle group letters, so a slight nuance different, and it might not have the ability to grab some of the case information. So there's some combination there that we might need to enhance ACE in order to support that in a more streamlined manner. You can still probably generate those letters. It just may be a bit more complicated where you're having to plug in values hard-coded, like manually typing in the client names in like these misfields so that it populates properly on letters. Things like that you might have to do as workarounds. So probably my recommendation is if you have something very specific requirements-wise, if we get that up front, we can build out the process so that it's very streamlined in ACE.
Okay.
But I mean, one of our fairly new features that has worked out pretty well, and I like it a lot now, is called bundle groups. And so within a bundle, you know, a bundle being multiple accounts tied to the same individual, you could specify how you want to break out which, you know, a subset of those accounts you want to put into a letter. And it grabs all of the information for that subset, including the total balance of all the accounts and all that other stuff. And so you can group by specific fields, like your, you know, client code would be a good example. Client code, or even primary client code, which means like a client that has subclients. You know, one company, one business, if you will. So you can break it up like that, so that each. So I'm just going to say client code, like that. And then when I'm on well, this is probably a bad example, but unless we do something fun here, let me grab a group identifier, bundle test, save. Oh wait, this is a judgment account. Let's get a cleaner account. We'll do our bundle tests here. So this is client name bundle test. And we have, this is our group identifier. Save that. And I'm going to be creating a brand new account for a different client. We'll do our sample one client. Again, same group identifier. Testing. blah, blah, blah. Let's just do $100 here. Client charge-off date is today. Client charge-off date, $100. And that's kind of all we need. So let me hit apply. That should bring me to this new account. As you can see, it's a bundle member. So it bundled successfully. So if I bring up this account, I have a section down here that is bundle, and it lists out the account. You can also see that it belongs to 2 different client codes here, bundle versus sample 1. And then I have a filter. So I can select my filter and I can say client code bundle versus sample. And it automatically breaks out by that client code as a bundle group. And so when I send letters, I can do it based off of client code sample 1 or client code bundle. And it sends a letter specifically relating to the accounts belonging to that client.
So then we'd be able to develop an assignment off of the client-specific bundles.
Yes. It would be a bundle group letter. You do it that way.
Okay. Because in the legal realm, there's quite a bit that you need to pull the case information, all of that, but the standard assignment, as it's said, is standard collection information, client account number, balance, interest.
Right.
That's what we're populating those with. Okay.
Yeah. And what you could do is you could just say, hey, in this legal case, I don't really care about any of the information in the case so much as I just want certain values to appear in the letter. And you can create a custom form like this one here. And this just, you plug in whatever values you need to appear on the letter, and then these values can be grabbed and populated on the letter from the account.
Okay.
So, any field you can imagine, we can probably do. And you can generate it, your own custom version of ACE with your own custom fields and forms. So that's also possible, and all of that can appear on letters.
And then you guys are synced up with RevSpring, correct?
We are.
We are.
RevSpring
Yep.
is one of our. Fortunately, RevSpring is one of the ones that we actually have a monthly fee for to maintain because the integration is not optimal.
So are there any limits to number of variables being sent through? We currently ship everything to RevSpring. They're just getting obviously data feeds, and then the formatting and the text is just, we are approving that on their end, and then they're just saying, okay, this variable goes in this location type of scenario. I'm assuming it's very similar with you guys.
Yeah, all our letter vendors work very similar. RevSpring is the exception. With most of our vendors, we determine which fields we're sending over, and we send them over a CSV or TSV, and then they consume that file and populate the values. But with RevSpring, we have more of a specific format that we've kind of agreed upon with them, and that's something here. But I don't think I can enable it on my test environment because it requires a add-on.
The formats, which we have to, for every letter we do, we have to have a specific, they have to assign in a format now, so that's probably what they're doing on the back end. Okay.
I mean, I have no problem.
Cool.
For those types of things, we can still use Brown. But for these other things.
The validations and
Yeah.
such that, yeah, I don't think, I mean, we are always, anytime we're creating a letter, they're creating a particular template to be able to, every one of our letters has that's how they're presented back to operations when we're balancing out. It's based off of codes and letter number. It's got a template set up. I think it's pretty similar.
Okay. And
Any other questions or things you want to go over?
I don't think so.
I don't know. No. Was there an interest field on your judgment screen? Like
Yes.
to put the percentage in? Okay.
Yes. So when you do a judgment, you can do it at that point. Also, once you're on a judgment, so let me go to this one. This is a judgment account. There's interest rate here, so I can do 5, and I can start interest effective date. You can even do retroactive and say, hey, oh, it started on July 4th. And then once you apply it, it automatically adjusts the balance based off of the interest that accumulates. And you can see the interest, you know, it's $2.01 for 5% since July 4th. This value doesn't get stamped on the account, so you can still change it as needed until a payment has gone through or a transaction is added to the account. That's when we serialize and stamp that interest. And then in order to change it after that, you'd post adjustments. That's kind of how our interest works, is, you know, interest rate, interest effective date, and it just calculates right that on the fly.
Is that what you were hoping for?
So in your audit process, because we have that, are we still doing it's kind of printing off we're utilizing just logic throughout and applying, right?
Was that for us or for your?
This would be a post-judgment interest that he has on here.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the pre-judgment would have to be coming off of
The other agency interest, the traditional. Okay.
Right.
Sorry, guys, we're just sidebarring. Leanne does an audit process that kind of runs through to make sure and that's in the pre-judgment process on any agency interest accrued to that point.
Sure.
She processes before we got some.
Let me ask you this. Does your clients get a commission, or do you have to pay your clients any of the post-judgment interest? I found that was kind of a strange ask that one of our customers had. None of our other customers had that ask, but I'm just wondering if that was a thing that you guys do.
No, we retain all interest buckets.
Okay, that's definitely easier.
With the exception of unless the client is initially listing interest.
Yeah, and that is all on the original account. That's one of the reasons why we separate the accounts.
Right, correct. But no, here it's all 100% retained, correct?
Yeah, okay.
All agency interest and post-judgment interest is 100% retained.
Okay.
Cool.